Oh, we're recording now. Okay, so inventory is now a supply number for the real estate industry, right? But
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily tell us about demand. And you and I were talking, and I don't know if you were able to find anything, but I'm going to commit to figuring out how to find out the number of showings that are happening right now, which is give us a little insight into this demand. Because if I just looked at this graph or these numbers here, I might panic thinking, oh my God, there's not going to be any houses left to look at, right? But I also think demand may be slowing down a little bit. What are you feeling, Toya?
So that's a great question. I still think we are seeing high demand because we're seeing a lot of multiple offers on listings. And
Yeah.
so as that number slows down, and we try and read the pulse, and I know we've got some agents on here. How many of you all who are listing based, by show of hands, have over 10 plus offers still on the table?
I can't see.
So what we're finding,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's only a couple of people who are actually showing themselves, but what we're finding, we're still seeing that there is a huge number of offers being made. So the demand is still there. The demand is still there. What will be interesting, Brett, and what I looked at with these numbers is that although our listings actually went down, as you said, the closings went up. So that's still a good indication. If you can get a listing and find some listings, you're definitely going to be amongst those closing, and that's just market demand.
It doesn't change the phrase. I've coined the phrase, listings are king or queen in our industry, just like cash is king, right?
That's right.
Listings are cash in our industry in
Absolutely.
that analogy. And so whoever the lucky agents are that listed these 807 houses are going to have a good week this week, right?
They are.
And obviously there's a lot of agents that should be excited with 2,335 closings over the previous 7 days. And yet we're not even halfway through the summer yet. And we're still building in demand and building in inventory if the traditional bell curve holds true, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Brett, I have some interesting numbers to share. I don't know how many people actually looked at the buyer demand remains robust for Georgia housing market, just what we're talking about. So here's some great numbers to kind of think about. In the month of May, we had an average sales price increase 20% year over year, and closed sales were up 37%. So new listings increased 6%. Pending sales were up 2%. Everything and every metric was up. Days on the market, however, decreased to 49% to 27 days on the market. So I thought that was some interesting information coming from the Georgia Realtor Association.
Yeah. What was average sales price up?
Average sales price was up, increased by 20% to $363,000.
So I like to point out, and I'll never get tired of pointing this out, but that is 20% of whatever real estate you own, you accumulated in wealth creation by just owning real estate.
Yep.
So that price appreciation factor went up 20% to your net worth bottom line, just because the simple fact you own real estate. And that's really that power in real estate. And the bigger your real estate portfolio, the bigger that 20% appreciation added to your accumulated net worth, right?
I love it. And speaking of net worth, we're having the conversation strongly about wealth building for our associates. So while you all are, looking to find great investment opportunities or new homes for your clients, don't forget about yourself. And I wanted to share something else that we'll talk about a little bit later on, where some opportunities are for us as associates if we want to get into investing and even affordable housing. So I'll let you switch gears, Brett, and go to your next one.
So here we go. CNN put an article up over the weekend. I hate their little ads. Housing market is on fire. The Fed keeps adding gasoline. Now, I want to point out an important factor when we talk and we start showing you articles. I think there's industry publications and there's consumer publications. and they have different effects. So a lot of times I'll show you an article off of like Inman News, which is primarily read by real estate professionals. When an article hits CNN or Fox News or insert your favorite news carrier, this is what the consumer's reading. And I think it's important for us to know that. And a lot of times it's national news, which sometimes translates locally and sometimes does not. So the housing market is on fire. Yep, we get it. And the Fed keeps adding gasoline. What does that mean, Toya?
You know, I am looking at, just what it says. I think the first line says bidding wars, all cash offers. So when you're thinking of we're now on fire. We're seeing cash offers being made and companies to some of our credit that are helping to make this a lucrative field for a lot of our buyers. We were talking this morning about Ribbon, which is one of the companies that offers or allows cash buyers to come in and play. And so if you can't really, if conventional or FHA or VA, there's opportunities out here where you do have some companies that will allow you to do all cash offers. So that is huge.
Yeah, for sure. And I highlighted this sentence, says, and while the Fed is finally talking about removing some of its support, what is the Fed's support? Well, the support is how they back government funded loans. The support is what they charge in interest rates, and they move that Fed rate, right? US Treasury rates. They fear that the US central bank's creating another housing bubble as it deliberates. I don't agree with that statement. I think we need some kind of predatory lending or some kind of artificial creation to create an actual housing bubble, where the bubble insinuates that it pops and there's a sudden change. Do I think we could have a slowdown or a recession? Of course, history tells us that's coming at some point, right? It always does. But the Fed is not doing anything right now. And that's what's important in this article is you would think that if the housing market was so hot, the Fed might raise interest rates to slow it down, or they do some other government tools that they use to slow down the housing market. But they don't want to slow it down right now because the housing market is traditionally what causes the economy to recover after a recession, a war, a pandemic. They
How about
want
that?
us spending money to fuel the economy at the expense of the housing market in the future. I don't know. All debatable, but nonetheless, I think it's a hot topic because you're right. Prices are exploding. We talked 20% earlier, but they're really not doing anything. This is an interesting thing. It talks about making inequality worse. I'll let you guys read all this on your own, but it basically, they end up subsidizing the rich at the expense of the poor. This is all opinion pieces and everybody can read and form your own opinions. What I wanted to go to today, Toya, if you're okay with, is some more specific things going on in our world.
Yeah, so we talked escalation clauses. What are your thoughts on that? Because I have a few of my own that we talked about last week.
Sure. So let's start with just general non-opinion based. What is an escalation clause and why would I need it?
So really, it's in order to win a bid. It's really to go over and above the asking price of a home, which I don't think that's not anything new, but we're seeing it more and more in our market to win the bid. If a house is listed at 200,000, I'll pay 224 to 215. However, what happens in an escalation clause, and I'll share with you some things that have kind of changed very, very drastically, is that most sellers are now, or the listing side are getting savvy that, hey, when the appraisal comes in, because if there's an appraisal contingency, then they're going to have to reduce the price. So what we're seeing now, where escalation clauses were kind of the norm, we have now seen more of the appraisal gaps. where people are now paying over that appraised price. So even if the asking price is 200,000, you say that I'm going to pay 220. If it does not appraise for 220, or it only appraises for 200,000, you're paying the difference. So we're seeing that part change just a little bit in the industry, really overnight.
Absolutely. And what I understand escalation clauses to be, Toya, which is a little bit a different explanation than what you did, but I appreciate that, is if I'm negotiating on a house and I'm a buyer's agent, I'm going to tell my buyer, if the house is priced at 300,000, what's your top dollar? Okay, I'll do $330,000. So let's put in an offer at 300,000, and we'll write an escalation clause that says, if somebody offers more than me, I'll offer 1,000 more. And they may have an escalation clause, and it keeps creeping up until I hit my top number at $330,000. And if somebody goes over, they go over, but I escalated my offer value to get me to where I had to go. Now, I think it's risky, and I think you have to be well-versed with helping agents understand how to do this, or helping buyers understand how to do this, because how can you prove that it actually got an offer here and an offer here, and you get caught in a little bit of he said, she said. But this article on Inman News basically talks about that and what an escalation clause is. But I also think this is it's a tool you should know about. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of agents using it. And in order to use this, you really need to get with your broker and make sure you're up to speed on the proper way to use this tool. But it's a pretty popular tool. And
yeah,
right now, especially with the market the way it is, I would say a lot of offers have this attached to it.
You're absolutely right. And I didn't go through the process of how it works, but where we're seeing that listing agents aren't really accepting escalation clauses, because it doesn't matter if you climb over the next person. If that appraisal contingency is still in there, you're only going to get what it appraises for. And I think a lot of the listing agents have really gotten very savvy to say, you know, we're not going to do the escalation clauses as much as we are the appraisal gap, which does the same thing. It escalates. We're going to pay this over that amount, but we're going to pay the difference. So same process, same principle, except one is guaranteed, the other one isn't.
Yeah. Or one's backed by an appraisal.
There you go.
You know, and an escalation clause, I think in this example, I ironically gave the same numbers they used, but it's almost like it was a cash offer. I'm willing to pay 330,000 cash, but I want to start at 300,000, right? If you're not using an attorney and you have a non-professional draft the language, you may put yourself in contractual obligation, meaning don't wing this.
Right.
You need to have your broker or somebody trained in the market center that's done these show you how to do them properly. But nonetheless, this purpose of this call weekly is about the industry update. And a year ago, we probably wouldn't be talking about escalation clauses. Right now, I would say 50% of most houses probably have a chance of having an escalation clause attached to it.
Yep.
And so you need to be up to speed on this in today's industry update. What else now give me your opinion, Toya.
Okay.
Let's talk functionality. Give me your opinion.
So my opinion is just what I said. We're seeing escalation clauses were a deal of yesterday. Today's market, people are using appraisal gap because listing agents aren't really taking an escalation clause unless the appraisal is waived. And even with that, depending on the type of loan that they're getting, if they're getting a loan, there's still going to be an appraisal done anyway. So we're seeing more of the appraisal gap done, that language. And I would agree with you, Brett, that's where you need to get with your broker. GAR does a very good job in terms of putting stipulations already pre-printed where you don't have to reinvent the language. So what I would always say, refer to that as well as your broker.
Absolutely. But nonetheless, we talk a lot about in an acute real estate market, like an acute buyer's market or an acute seller's market, being a skills-based agent is where the success comes from.
Man,
This is a skill.
it
Knowing
is.
how to consult somebody through appraisal gap, escalation clauses, is something, in order to succeed in this market, you need to be well-versed on these things.
Yep.
And, we know at the office level, this isn't something most newer agents even come into the industry even aware of, and we're coaching up as fast as we can, but you should engage your own learning process at the same time.
Absolutely.
Anything we're missing on escalation clauses?
I think you hit the nail on the head with it.
Okay. Well, if anybody in the chat tells me they're using escalation clauses, I'd love to hear the stories. While we're doing that, come on now. They changed the rules.
Whew.
How dare they? Tell me
How
what
dare-
this is all about.
Well, they actually have been looking at how to work in teams at the Georgia Real Estate Commission level so that we are not viewed as a brokerage. And so they are putting language around that. What's great is that they're asking for our opinion and our voice. So this is an excellent opportunity for you to be able to rule in what your thoughts are. It's pretty lengthy, but they've highlighted everything in what is considered to be a team and what is not. And from all that I can look at just, quickly and things that we've discussed, of course, you cannot be a team and have an LLC or incorporated or any of those things that would make you look like you are an independent brokerage outside of KW.
I think the purpose of people need to understand the purpose of the Real Estate Commission is they want to protect the consumer.
Absolutely.
And they believe in order to protect the consumer, it has to be clear who the broker is that is the line of supervisory, right?
Yep.
So when we start advertising with certain language, they think, and it's all opinion based, they think it creates ambiguity around the clarity of who's in charge.
Absolutely.
And that's where this stuff kind of comes in to be when it comes to naming, right?
Absolutely.
So anyway, so here we are. So the market is hot. I think CNN said it. We've said it. All these articles talk about how hot it is in low inventory. We've talked about listings are king or queen. And ultimately, we don't know specifically the level of demand yet. And we're seeking out ways to try to bring that data to these calls. But specifically, we're talking to you about supply and what a low supply, which creates that price appreciation, which Toya quoted at 20% through the month of May. So yep. Here we are moving forward. There is your industry update for the week. Any questions? Anything you want to add, Toya?
I want to talk about opportunities because I feel like in every changing market, particularly tight markets like this, this is where you really get to shine because I feel like everybody is on equal playing levels. So we get to really see who has those strong negotiation skills. So a couple of things. I want to talk about South affordability, and that's south of I-20. So I looked at Clayton County. A lot of people sleep on what Clayton County has, but I will tell you the average sales price in Clayton County right now is about $210,000 to $230,000. So we're losing a lot of bids because anyone under $250,000, they may not be able to fit in that if they don't have all cash. So one, there's an opportunity for your clients, but I also want to talk about investment opportunities, listing opportunities. In Clayton County, just the past 70 days, they had 78 new listings that came on the market, 78. So when I pulled up parts of South Fulton in the past 70 days, I had Area 31, which was Southwest Atlanta. They had 42 new listings. There were only 23 new listings in Atlanta Southeast. which is South Fulton, but that's Atlanta Southeast. So that's kind of that inner city. There were only 23 listings. So when you're talking about competing and where you can go in order to gain some listings, maybe think outside of your typical area that you look at, because if you can list in one area, you can list in another, as long as you're that market expert. And then the other part that I want to tell people to take advantage of is when we're talking about affordability, there are still properties right now in Clayton County that are going for less than 100,000 in terms of picking up your own investment properties. Now I'm talking to you as the associate. We want you to be able to pick up some investment properties as well. And you would say, well, why would I do Clayton County? So there's some great things that are coming towards Henry County, Clayton County. If you go down towards the Motor Speedway, I don't know how many of you all are aware that they're looking at building a massive casino. That has been the huge thing that's been on topic for Hampton, Georgia, which is on the Henry County border, but it parallels right there with Clayton and Henry. So you're talking about the new Beltline that's coming down that area. I just think we should be astute of, when we're thinking of the market, think about the market in terms of what can I get for myself in terms of building my investment portfolio, but also what's coming to new areas and where's that new growth coming from. So affordability is still there in Clayton and Henry. Henry County is still, in that massive range as far as affordability, but there are a lot of new developments. So that's what I would add to the south tip of where things are growing.
Perfect. Any questions from the gallery? All right. Thank y'all very much. Have a good one.
Awesome.
See you next week on Industry Update.
Thanks, guys.